the stimulation and the distractions are so much easier than sitting in your own shit and figuring out, why do I feel this way? What's wrong? What can I change with my business? What can I change in my marriage? It's easier to just pull your phone out and scroll through Instagram than to sit there and assess what needs you are not meeting in your life and what changes you have to make. It is officially the end of January. By the time you guys and girls will be hearing this, it will most likely be February. This was a long month. My wife complained that there were too many days in this month, and I've somewhat enjoyed it. Been catching up with things for work. I've had a ton of odds and ends to do. It seems every day there's something else that comes up on my list of things to do. But I haven't minded the slowness of January. We've had some nasty weather recently. It's rain and rain and rain, and then we got snow, and then everything melted. So everything's very wet right now. A decent amount of groundwater flooding, and it makes for a very ugly January, but I don't mind. I think that life as an adult flies by so quickly, and there's weeks that I want to go fast and weeks that I wish would go slower. But um, getting off that bigger job and catching up on odds and ends and taking care of some things in my life and smaller jobs has made for a slower month, and the pace is nice. It's less chaotic, a little bit less stressful. Obviously, you're making a little bit less money, which adds to the um, dynamic of life and anxiety and everything else. But it's been nice being a little bit slower, which actually brings me to the blog post podcast topic for today. Um, and I think that a lot of times these feelings and what's going through my head goes hand in hand with this time of year. Um, Getting going again, the new year, the work year starting back off, assessing life, assessing the past year. But the podcast and the blog post this week, it's blog 52, and I named it The Need for Change. And I guess my intent with this is to put this idea in your ear and see if it resonates with anyone. See if I'm the only one who feels this way. If I'm just being unrealistic, if this is an impossibility with today's day and age. But I'd just be curious to see, because I feel this way quite often, and it's something that I yearn for and I long for, and I probably have not done the best job creating a life that would make this possible, but it still makes me want this. So I'm gonna get into it before, as I'm alluding to everything that I'm talking about without actually talking about it. So um this mug is obviously my wife's people person. Let's see. So each year, especially this time of year, the new year, I know you guys have heard about this before, but I I feel that I want some sort of major change in my life. And generally speaking, that portrays itself in a need or a want for somewhat of a relocation and a restart. And that's not that I want to give up everything in my life and throw it all out the window, but I sometimes wonder if, as human beings, as adults, as people, that we if it was intended by human nature for us to just stay put. Um, were we meant to settle down in an area and then not leave and then go through the motions of doing the same thing over and over again, from the time that we're an adult and getting done college until the time that we check out? And as I get older, I realize that the time between now and checking out is going to go by very quickly. Um, Life goes incredibly fast right now. Again, this month was somewhat slow, and I enjoyed it. There were certain challenges with the stillness, but the when I'm when life's chaotic, it goes by extremely quickly, week in, week out. It's you wake up, it's Monday, and then it's Friday. And then it just keeps happening over and over again. I recall being a kid and the school year would go so slowly. I was just bored. There was too much free time. I didn't, you didn't have the freedom to do what you want. You had to abide by your parents' rules, and life just drug out. And I don't necessarily want that, but I would love more of a balance there where it's not as chaotic as it proves to be. And I'm sure that kids add to that. Owning a business adds to that. But I also feel that where we live in this tri-state area adds to that as well. So maybe I'm naive in thinking this, but would relocating change the lifestyle that we have? Would it make it any different, or would it just be the same shit elsewhere that we experience here? And I think back to when I was younger and when I was a kid and what I wanted for life and what was important to me and what I really enjoyed. And a lot of that was being outside, being with nature. I never dreamt to have a ton of money. I never dreamt to not have to work. I never dreamt to have a huge house and expensive cars. That wasn't what really spoke to me. But I do recall being younger, enjoying being in the outdoors and living a simpler lifestyle. And there's just something about that that spoke to me and continues to speak to me this day. Excuse me. Sorry. Um, I just sometimes the complexities of life are overwhelming to me, and I yearn for a simpler life, right? If we had a little more privacy and you didn't have the upkeep of living in suburbia where you have to have a nice lawn and you have to have a nice house, and your kids have to wear certain clothes because that's the standard. It just the societal pressures make life even more intense, and that never was really up my alley. I mean, you guys probably see what I wear on this podcast day in and week out, and it's typically a t-shirt, TRG. I'm not I don't need fancy things. I don't need a ton of money. But I do like my freedoms, and I do like to be able to enjoy the fruits of my labor. And I think that life today makes it really difficult to do that. Um, and again, this may be just a pipe dream of mine, but a handful of times each year, it's like I find myself on realtor.com where I'm looking either up north, more wilderness related areas, or out west, just to have a little bit more space, a little bit more privacy, and for lack of a better term, take a step back in time some where we just I think about even 30 years ago, right? I was 8, and what did we have? We didn't have the internet. I know that I didn't have cable TV. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have tablets. So what did we do? We went outside and we played. And my kids, I still feel get a decent amount of that. But as a child, you had to learn how to keep yourself busy. You didn't have the ability to just turn on a TV or hop on a tablet or text a friend. Um, you learned to deal with your emotions, to deal with what you were feeling, and there was boredom at times. And I think we live in a world right now that nobody understands how to deal with boredom. They don't understand how to be with their own thoughts. And I know this is true for myself as well. And I understand that the struggles I have this time of year and the struggles I have around the holidays where the time I have the time off, a lot of that anxiety comes from a lack of stimulation where I'm not busy. My mind has time to analyze my life, the decisions that I make, what I'm doing, what the future holds. And a lot of this anxiety is due to my inability to be able to sit still. And I'm sure that that began and was something in my life as I was younger, but I think that today's day and age and having social media on my phone and not you sit at a traffic light, I can pull my phone out. I go to the bathroom, I can pull my phone out. I lay in bed, I can pull my phone out. There's not a lot of time that affords us an opportunity to just sit still, um, to listen to your thoughts, to gauge your thoughts, and we are not comfortable within our own skin because we don't know how to deal with silence. We don't know how to deal with not having something to do, and I do long for that, and I do want that for my kids, and I want them to understand their emotions and what they're feeling and um, what life is like. And I think that we've gotten so far away from that. And this need for constant stimulation is not necessarily the best thing. And I think that it makes life go really quickly and that we're not truly experiencing life and understanding who we are. Obviously, this is not a business related podcast, just some things that I'd been thinking recently, in this past month of taking care of odds and ends and things that I put off in my life and things that I haven't been able to take care of, and understanding the challenges of still not scheduling larger jobs and still really having a difficult time being able to take care of those things because this comes up, because that changes, because somebody got sick. And yeah, that's life. But also, if we didn't have the lifestyle that we did and we weren't where we were and things didn't cost what they did, would we feel the same way? Would we be able to work a little bit less and take care of things that are on our plate rather than working 8, 10 hours a day? I know a lot of people work more than that. And then just putting everything off that we have to for ourselves to take care of everyone else, and then constantly having this pile of shit on our plate that just seems as though it's insurmountable and we're never going to tackle it. And again, I take a month off from work, bigger jobs, and I still it's meetings and it's returns and it's phone calls and emails and paperwork and taxes, and it's just like the lifestyle that we've created for ourselves. um proves to be difficult no matter what way you slice it, whether you're busy, whether you're not busy. It's almost damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I'm curious if this pipe dream of relocating or finding a simpler lifestyle elsewhere is realistic, or it's just a bit of uh naive, me being naive to what life is really like as an adult. So I heard this quote recently, and I don't know much about this man. So he's a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, and I'm not even going to try and attempt to pronounce his name because I'm going to botch it. Um, but I read this and it really resonated with me. It just everything that I was feeling and everything that I have been feeling and what I feel about life and for our kids and for my life, it really summed up so well. And the quote is, anxiety, the illness of our time, comes primarily from our inability to dwell in the present moment. And maybe it's just again this time of year, the weather, me intentionally not having a job that's keeping me busy for 10 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and trying to square up some loose ends. But when I have time off, and when I'm not in this vicious cycle of life and business and customers and bills, my anxiety gets worse. And I believe that that is a product of the world that we live in and the lifestyle that we've adopted in order to play the game, in order to have what we have. And it's everything in life and living where we live and the house that we have and the business that we have and the clothes that we have and the motorcycle, everything is a product of this. And as soon as it slows down, you go on vacation, you take a week off between Christmas and New Year's. As soon as things slow down, which is what I want so badly, the anxiety creeps in and it gets worse because I don't have these distractions. And I've realized that I have lost a lot of the ability to be able to cope with the downtime that I want so much. Um, and it's just because we're not used to having it. And the stimulation and the distractions are so much easier than sitting in your own shit and figuring out, why do I feel this way? What's wrong? What can I change with my business? What can I change in my marriage? It's easier to just pull your phone out and scroll through Instagram to sit there and assess what needs you are not meeting in your life and what changes you have to make. And I don't want that for myself, and I don't want that for my children because I feel as though it's just perpetuating issues within myself and struggles that I've faced my whole life, that I haven't dealt with, and life and the distractions and the chaos of life are not affording me an opportunity to deal with. So this is why I do want a slower lifestyle because I want to. And a slower lifestyle doesn't mean that um, there's a lot that comes along with that. And that's not saying that I want to do less, I want to work less. I don't necessarily know if I want the pressure of life as it stands on my shoulders each and every day. Is there a lifestyle or a place that I could be that I could feel more content with myself, and with downtime and with taking time off and with not keeping up with the Joneses, right? Is the lawn green enough? Does the house need painting? Do I need to clean up out back because there's trash there? Should I not park my trailer here because it's going to be an eyesore? Little things that may seem trivial, but as they add up, um, they become more of a weight. And it's all of these little things that would take so much time to sort out. And with the life that we have today, you don't have that. Everyone needs to work. 90% of people need two incomes. Everything's continuing to get more expensive, and that just adds to the stress. It adds to the anxiety. It adds to the chaos of life where it's like we can't afford to slow down. Um, and maybe this pipe dream or this idea, this dream of relocating or finding a place that we could live a more quieter, simpler life is just that. It's a pipe dream. It's some sort of naivete, um, that's unrealistic, and that all of these changes actually just need to happen internally, right? There's this saying, um, that I believe comes from the rooms of AA where it's, no matter where you go, you have to take yourself, something along those lines. And it's like, yeah, you can run away from everything and you can go somewhere else, but at the same time, you're still going to be there. And the problem is you. It's not the location, it's not work, it's not everyone else around you. The problem's you. So no matter where you run, no matter where you go, you're bringing that problem with you. So it's easier to address the problem internally. And then it doesn't, those other factors, those outside factors don't necessarily matter. So that complicates my thought process where I'm like, hey, is this just all me? My wife, that's part of the struggle with this, is like my wife doesn't feel the same way that I feel. She doesn't have the stress, the anxiety. And she does. It's there. All of these pressures are on there. They're no different for her than for me. We're under the same house. We have the same kids, the finance, it's all the same stuff. She works full time. I work full time. She takes care of the kids so much more than me. Um, but she doesn't get this way. She doesn't feel this way. These things don't bother her. She's completely happy being where we are, not having any more, not having any less, living this life out um, and just saying, "Yeah, that was our life. That's what we did." And I don't know, for me, I want something more. I want to try different things. I want more opportunity, and I just wonder, if as a human being, as a race, as a people, if we were meant to create a life and stay put and just live that out, and that's it, right? You're going through the motions, and you're going to get married, have a family, get a job, work, pay your taxes, and then die. And call me crazy, but I want to think that there's more to this than that, and that there's more opportunity than that, and there's more enjoyment out of life than just working to pay for shit. Um, and I know that I complicate things. I know that I have toys and that I like nice things, and that all perpetuates all of this. But at the same time, i- is there a lifestyle? Is there a place that I could be that makes it less complicated? That makes for a more wholesome lifestyle that just alleviates some of the grind. And that's somewhat of my question to you guys and girls, where it's like, hey, I think to myself, like, do I love where we are? And I think as a kid and growing up, I didn't know any different, and I enjoyed it. Like, I didn't have an issue where I grew up. I think it was a good upbringing. It was a nice place to grow up, and I didn't have any issues. But you're also limited. Your resources are limited, and I don't think that that's a fair indicator of life. And I think as to where I am now, and I'm like, do I love where we are? And I don't. I don't. I know that I don't. Um, but is any place that I put myself going to feel the same after a while? Is it just me? Is it not where we are? I I think of there's certain aspects of my life that I truly do like, and there's certain aspects of our geographic location that I truly do like. But if I could pick anywhere to be, I don't think it would be Medford, New Jersey. Like, it's nice, but I don't want to live my whole life and be like, yeah, that like I just spent, 50, 60 years, 50 years in Medford. It's not what I want. It's a nice place. It's a nice place to raise a family, but I feel that there's places that fit me better. But again, this my wife doesn't feel the same way. And I don't necessarily think that she has a strong feeling one way or another, but I think that she's more of the mindset that it's like, hey, this is you, it's not where you are. And I'm not going to say that she's not right, but I also do believe that part of where you are makes up how you feel, and is responsible for your overall well-being, mental well-being, physical well-being, right? If we lived somewhere where there was, I just felt it was more beautiful, or more of our lifestyle was conducive to being outside, and nature, and less house piles, and the architecture was better, would I be happier? And or would I just get used to what it is, right? You go somewhere new and it's exciting, and then after you're there for a while, that novelty wears off, right? The bloom falls off the rose, and then it's just life. And I think that my wife feels that that's the way it's going to be, right? You pick up and you relocate, or you try something else. You get a new job, and there's a short window where it's like, yeah, this is great, but then it's just the same shit. The grass is not always greener. But I'd be interested to hear from you guys if that's something that you can relate to, that you feel may be accurate or inaccurate, or no matter where you are, it's going to be the same shit. I would like more space in my life. I would like to feel less congested. I would like less traffic. I would like more nature. I don't necessarily want to live in a neighborhood where there's people buying land and putting up houses here and there, and now it's like, everywhere is suburbia. Um, you know, People bought property behind us and put up a 9,000 square foot house behind us, and it, like, makes me sick for multiple reasons day in and day out, and it's just not what I want my life to be like. Um, and I do feel that with more space and more privacy and a bit more solace and stillness, that I would be happier. But again, I haven't proved that I've had an ability to deal with that stillness. Maybe all of this is the distraction that I'm constantly looking for to not have to sit in my own shit, and figure out what truly makes me happy, and maybe that's where all this is coming from. I'm not sure. But again, I would like to hear your input on this, a response to this, an email to this, whatever it may be, a DM. I'd be curious to see how you guys and girls feel, because it seems that again, a couple times a year, I'm like, damn, I wish we could just like give all this up and go try something else. And realistic realistically, we're established here. Our kids are established here. We have a business here, and it's probably not realistic. But would that has anyone done that? Has that proved to be a successful change for you? Or was it a simple fact of the grass isn't always greener? You made all of these changes and it was the same thing. I'd be curious to hear, because I haven't tried that, right? I had a short stint where I went to school in Colorado for a bit, and then I lived in Philadelphia for a while, which is close to me and not my speed, right? It was fun when I was 21 to 23 years old, but not something I would want for myself or my family now. So I'd be curious to see if anyone made a substantial change in their life, or relocated, or um, just tried something new and it proved to be um, a really successful outcome for them. Um, my in-laws have a place up in upstate New York, and my wife and I'll go and drive around up there, and I'm like, yeah, I could live here. I could make do. I could figure out business wise up here. There's more space. It's a bit more rural. It's a lot slower. There's not all the shopping centers and the malls, and there's no major cities around there. But are there other complications? Are there other things that would make me feel unfulfilled or unhappy? I don't know. I've never tried it. It's been short lived, and it was when I was younger. Um, and I didn't have what I had on my plate right now. But that's where this podcast and blog post was coming from. It was difficult to write a blog post around this subject, because it's really hard. Even now, speaking to camera, it's really hard to wrap my head around what I'm feeling and to make it sound logical, and the sequence of it. Like, there's a million things going through my head, which a lot of times are leading to pauses in this conversation with myself, because it's difficult to wrap my head around how I feel, and what I want and what I feel I need as a human, as a father, as a husband, as a business owner, as just myself. It's hard to quantify that. It's hard to rationalize that, and it's hard to put that into words. But I'm sure that other people have felt the way that I feel. Um, it it's definitely something that's been there my entire life. And It's something that I'm not sure it's ever going to go away. I'm not sure if change would actually change anything. Um, Let me see. I'm trying to look up if you guys, something that, and it's a bit extreme, right? This isn't what I'm thinking, but if you guys have ever seen the movie Into the Wild, or read about Chris McCandless and what he wanted out of life and what he did. Yeah, it's like the extreme. But I remember seeing that movie when I was younger and feeling a lot of the same sentiments that he did, and a lot of what he was feeling was relatable to me. And it's crazy to think that I am where I am and that I do what I do from a business perspective, a podcast perspective, in somewhat of the public eye, the industry eye. It's crazy to think that that's a movie and that's a story that speaks so deeply and loudly to me, yet I am where I am, and I've created the life that I have because they seem to be on polar opposite sides of the spectrum. So, um, I can't necessarily put my feelings into words, but that movie and that story is extremely relatable to me, and somewhat always have been. And if you guys have seen that, if you haven't, it's a great movie. It's got a great soundtrack. Eddie Vedder um, makes up I'm not a huge Pearl Jam fan, but the soundtrack to that movie is great. So those are my thoughts, a bit of an off topic podcast and blog post this week, but I sat down last night and I was trying to figure out how to put this into words, and this is the best that I can do. And I'd be curious to see if it's relatable to any of you guys and girls, if it's something that you felt, if it's something that you continue to feel, and it's something that you acted on, and what the result was. Was it a positive change? Was it a negative change? Was it just a parallel shift where everything's the same and you're just in a new place? But I'd be curious to hear that. Let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Again, a little bit different than the standard, not business related, no technicalities here. A bit more of a philosophical, um, questioning life and where you are and the decisions that you're making and how you're raising your children and how, what you really want out of your life, and what's important to you. And, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. As always, this podcast is brought to you by Andersen Windows and Kuiken Brothers Lumber. If you guys need windows, you need doors. Obviously, I have a standing relationship with Andersen. I love the company. I love the people there. I love everyone that helps us and that we deal with. And I love their product. But if you need their products, Kuiken Brothers is one of the largest distributors of Andersen windows and doors in our area on the East Coast. So they have professional sales staff that can help you with whatever questions you have as far as product sizing. You can go see a lot of the displays at their showrooms. I know that they even have some big doors at some of their showrooms. So reach out to them for any sort of help that you need with Andersen products, and also check out their classical molding collection. I know you guys have heard me say it before, but honestly, there's nothing better. They they've done everything for me. They've supplied me with amazing moldings, amazing profiles. They're always keeping me up to date with new products. Their sales team is great. They've even sent out a special short order for a project of mine during COVID where we were looking to replicate somewhat of a sanitary casing that wasn't anything crazy. It was a one by, but it was 5/4 and it had a round over on each edge, and 5/4 matched the house. And it was all mitered, and I didn't want to use pine because I know it cracks. And Ryan and the team over there made a custom short order for me to get a 5/4 sanitary type casing made out of their pre-primed finger jointed poplar to make sure that it held up and it was stable and we didn't have cracked miters everywhere. And I'm super grateful for the help. So if you guys have any questions and you need anything from them, reach out to them. KuikenBrothers.com, KUIKEN brothers.com, and AndersenWindows.com, ANDERSEN Windows.com. Thanks, guys.